The stars had always been kind to humanity. For 300 years, humans traveled between worlds as traders, teachers, and healers. They built hospitals on distant planets. They shared their food and medicine with species who had never seen such kindness. The galaxy knew humans as the peaceful ones, the soft ones, the species that never raised a weapon. Admiral stood alone in his office aboard the command ship Hope of Earth. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served the human fleet for 40 years, but he had never fired a single shot in anger. His job was simple: protect the trade routes and keep humans safe. The message came at midnight ship time. Read it once, then he read it again. His hands began to shake. The words on the screen did not change no matter how many times he looked at them. 7 colony destroyed. No survivors. Empire claims responsibility. 40,000 people, men, women, and children, farmers and doctors and teachers, gone in a single night. Sat down slowly. He did not cry. He did not scream. He simply sat there staring at the wall as something inside him changed forever. The Empire was old and powerful. They had ruled 12 star systems for 1,000 years. They saw themselves as the masters of the galaxy. To them, other species were nothing more than insects. They had warned humanity many times to stay away from certain trade routes. Humanity had always found other paths, always avoided conflict. But 7 was not on any disputed route. It was a farming colony far from space. The people there grew wheat and corn and rice to feed hungry worlds. They had no weapons. They had no soldiers. They had only families trying to build a better life. The had destroyed them anyway, just to send a message, just to show humans their place in the galaxy. Commander received the news on her ship, the Silent Wind. She was younger than, with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had grown up on 7. Her parents still lived there. Her little brother had just started school. Had lived there, had started school. Walked to the communication center of her ship. Her crew watched her with worried eyes. They had never seen their commander look like this. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with something cold and terrible. She sat down at the main console and opened a channel. Not a private channel, not a secure military frequency. She opened every channel at once. Every ship in the sector, every station, every listening post in the galaxy could hear her words. "This is Commander of the human fleet," she said. Her voice was steady. "To the Empire and all who serve them, you have made a mistake. For 300 years we have chosen peace. We have traded with you. We have healed your sick. We have fed your hungry. We asked for nothing but friendship." She paused. The silence stretched across the stars. "You wanted our attention," continued. "Now you have it. You wanted to see what humans are capable of. Soon you will know. Remember this moment. Remember that you chose this. We did not want war, but now that you have given it to us, we will finish it." She closed the channel. Across the galaxy, billions of beings heard her words. Most laughed. The humans, those peaceful traders. What could they possibly do against the mighty empire? But some of the older species did not laugh. They remembered stories from long ago, from before humans left their home planet. Stories of a species that had spent thousands of years fighting itself. Stories of weapons so terrible that humans had sworn never to use them again. Stories of a darkness that humans kept locked away, deep inside themselves. The High Council received the broadcast in their golden palace. Emperor, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms, found it amusing. He played the message for his advisors, and they all laughed together. "The humans think they can threaten us," said. "How wonderful! Perhaps we should destroy another of their colonies, teach them proper respect." One of his advisors, an old general named, did not laugh. He had studied human history. He had read about their ancient wars. He knew things that the emperor did not. "My lord," said carefully, "perhaps we should consider negotiation. The humans have been peaceful, yes, but their history suggests." Their history, interrupted. They are merchants and farmers, they have no warriors, they have no weapons worth fearing. We have the greatest fleet in the galaxy. What could they possibly do to us? Bowed his head and said nothing more, but in his heart he felt afraid. Back on the Hope of Earth, Admiral called a meeting of all his senior officers. They gathered in the war room, a place that had been used only for training exercises for generations. Now, for the first time, it would serve its true purpose. Looked at the faces around him. Good people, kind people, people who had spent their lives helping others. You have all heard what happened, he said. You know what we must do, but before we begin, I want you to understand something. What we are about to unleash cannot be taken back. For 300 years, we have hidden what we truly are. We have pretended to be weak. We have let the galaxy think we are harmless. That ends today. He pressed a button on the table. A hologram appeared, showing files that had been sealed for centuries. Weapons designs, battle strategies, technology that humans had developed but never used. Our ancestors made terrible things, continued. They fought wars that nearly destroyed Earth itself. When we finally reached the stars, we swore to leave that darkness behind. We buried these weapons. We told ourselves we would never need them again. He looked at each officer in turn. We were wrong. Commander stepped forward. Admiral, I volunteer to lead the first strike. 7 was my home. Those were my people. Let me be the one to answer for them. Nodded slowly. Very well, but remember, we fight not for revenge but for justice. We fight so that no human colony will ever be destroyed again. We fight so that the galaxy will learn a simple truth. What truth? Someone asked. His eyes grew hard. That human patience is not human weakness, and those who mistake one for the other will learn their error in fire. The meeting ended. Officers returned to their ships. Messages flew across space as the human fleet began to wake from its long sleep. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. But they would learn. Very soon they would all learn. Fleet General Minu had served humanity for 50 years. He was an old man now, with white hair and a face full of deep lines. But his mind was still sharp, and his hands were still steady. He had been waiting for this day, hoping it would never come, but preparing for it nonetheless. He stood in a place that most humans did not know existed. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, there was a vault. It had been sealed for 300 years. No one had entered it since humanity first left for the stars. The vault door was 10 meters thick, made of metal that could survive a nuclear explosion. On its surface were words in 100 human languages, all saying the same thing: may this door never open again. Minu placed his hand on the scanner. The machine read his DNA, his fingerprints, his eye pattern. Then it asked him a question, the final security measure. Why do you seek to open this door? Minu answered without hesitation. Because 40,000 of my people are dead. Because the Empire believes we are weak. Because it is time for the galaxy to remember what humans truly are. The door began to open. Ancient machines groaned to life after centuries of silence. Dust fell from the ceiling as lights flickered on, one by one, revealing what lay inside. Weapons, thousands upon thousands of weapons. There were missiles that could crack a planet in half. There were bombs that could burn the air itself. There were guns that fired particles moving at the speed of light. There were ships designed only for war, with no space for cargo or passengers, only death. Minu walked through the vault slowly. He had studied these weapons in theory, but seeing them in person was different. His ancestors had built these things. They had used them against each other in wars that killed billions. And then, when humanity finally found peace, they had locked these weapons away, hoping they would never be needed again. I am sorry, Minu whispered to no one. I am sorry we must wake you. He gave the order. Across the solar system, other vaults began to open. On Mars, on the moons of Jupiter, on stations hidden in the asteroid belt. Everywhere humanity had gone, they had hidden pieces of their dark past. Now that past was coming back to life. The galaxy had always wondered why human ships looked so strange. Other species built their vessels for speed or beauty or power. Human ships were different. They were bulky and awkward, with thick walls and strange shapes. Other species laughed at them. Ugly human boxes, they called them. They did not understand. Every human merchant ship, every transport vessel, every hospital ship was built the same way. And inside their thick walls were hidden compartments. Compartments designed to hold weapons. Compartments that had been empty for 300 years. They were not empty anymore. Admiral watched from the Hope of Earth as his fleet transformed. Merchant ships opened their hidden panels and installed weapons that had been stored on the moon. Transport vessels received armor plating and shield generators. Hospital ships became command centers, their medical bays converted into war rooms. In 3 days, the human fleet went from a collection of peaceful traders to the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen. Other species watched in shock. The peaceful humans, the kind humans. Where had all these weapons come from? How had they hidden them for so long? The answer was simple. Humans had always been preparing. Not because they wanted war, but because they knew that someday someone would force them into one. They had hoped that day would never come. They had been wrong. On a space station near the edge of human territory, Captain received her new orders. She was young, only 30 years old, but she had a reputation for being calm under pressure. Nothing scared her. Nothing surprised her. Until today. She stared at the ship that had been delivered to her. It was called the Black Sky, and it was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was long and sleek, with dark metal skin that seemed to eat light. No windows, no visible weapons, just smooth, deadly curves. "What is this?" she asked. The engineer beside her smiled grimly. "This is what humans build when they stop being nice. It has weapons we do not even have names for yet. It can move faster than anything in the galaxy, and it is completely invisible to any scanner ever made." Touch the ship's hull. It was cold, almost alive. "How many of these do we have?" 12, hidden in different locations for 300 years. You are the first human to fly one since our ancestors sealed them away. Nodded slowly. She understood. She was being given the most powerful weapon humanity possessed, and she would use it to make the pay for what they had done. Across the galaxy, other species began to worry. They had seen the human broadcast. They had heard commanders' warning. At first, most had laughed. But now, as reports came in of the human fleet's transformation, laughter turned to fear. The Empire alone remained confident. Emperor ordered his fleet to gather at the border of human space. He had 5,000 warships, each one built for destruction. Surely, the humans could not match such power. "They are traitors," told his generals. "They have never fought a real war. Our fleet will crush them in days." General, the only one who had warned against attacking the humans, remained silent. He had requested permission to study human history more closely. What he found had kept him awake for 3 nights. Humans had fought 2 world wars. They had invented nuclear weapons and used them on their own cities. They had built armies of millions and sent them to die on battlefields soaked with blood. They had created gas that burned the lungs and bombs that could destroy everything within 10 kilometers. And that was before they left Earth. What had they built since then? What weapons were hidden in those vaults? Did not know, but he feared the answer. On the Hope of Earth, Admiral received a message from Fleet General Minu. The old warrior's face appeared on the screen, tired but determined. "All weapons have been distributed," Minu reported. "The fleet is ready. We have also reactivated the defense networks around Earth, Mars, and all major colonies. If they try to attack our homes, they will find only death." Nodded. Good. And the special units? Captain and her team are ready. They will strike first, before they even know we are coming. Closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were hard as stone. Then let us begin. Send the message to all human ships. Operation Awakening is now active. May God forgive us for what we are about to do. The message went out across all human frequencies. Every ship, every station, every colony received the same words. We did not start this war, but we will end it for 7. For every human who ever died believing the galaxy was kind. For every child who will never know the peace we once had. Today, we stop pretending. Today, the galaxy learns why our ancestors called us the top of the food chain. Today, humanity goes to war. Commander heard the message on the silent wind. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Finally, she whispered, finally we stop hiding. Around her, her crew prepared for battle. They were scared, but they were also ready. They had trained for this their whole lives, even if they had hoped never to use that training. The stars seemed darker now, as if they knew what was coming. 300 years of peace were over. The sleeping giant had awakened. And the galaxy would never be the same again. Captain sat in the command chair of the black sky. Around her, 11 other ships like hers moved through space in complete silence. No engines glowed. No signals went out. They were ghosts, invisible to every scanner in the galaxy. The outpost station hung in space before them. It was massive, a military base that held 10,000 soldiers and 200 warships. They believed it was unbeatable. They believed no enemy could ever reach it without being detected. They were wrong. Looked at her crew. 12 people, hand-picked for this mission. They were all young, all skilled, all burning with the same cold fire that had filled her heart since she heard about 7. Status report, she said quietly. All weapons ready, Captain, her weapons officer replied. His name was, and his hands were steady on the controls. They have no idea we are here. Their shields. Down, they see no threats, so they have not raised them. Nodded. This was how humans had always planned to fight if they ever had to. Not with large fleets meeting in open battle. Not with fair fights and honorable combat. Humans fought to win, quickly, completely, without mercy. Open a channel to the other ships, ordered. The faces of the other 11 captains appeared on her screen. They were all like her, young, determined, ready. You all know the plan, said. We hit them fast. We hit them hard. No survivors. The galaxy needs to understand that the old rules no longer apply. When humans go to war, we do not play games. The other captains nodded. Remember 7, continued. Remember the children who died in their beds. Remember the families who had no warning, no chance to run. They gave them no mercy. We will return that gift. She closed the channel and looked at her crew one final time. Fire. The black sky unleashed weapons that the galaxy had never seen. Beams of light that cut through metal like paper. Missiles that moved so fast they could not be tracked. Energy waves that passed through shields as if they did not exist. 11 other ships did the same. The station lasted exactly 11 minutes. In those 11 minutes, 10,000 soldiers died. 200 warships exploded before they could even start their engines. The station itself broke apart, its pieces flying into the darkness of space. Not a single human ship was scratched. Watched the destruction in silence. Part of her felt sick. She had just killed 10,000 living beings. They had families, they had hopes and dreams, and now they were gone. But then she remembered 7. She remembered the 40,000 humans who had died there, the children, the elderly, the families who had done nothing wrong except be human. Record a message, she said to her communications officer. The officer nodded and spoke to the camera. This is Captain of the human fleet. What you have just seen is the destruction of Outpost 7, 10,000 soldiers, 200 ships, 11 minutes. This is your first lesson. There will be more. She held up a data chip. On this chip are the names of every human who died at 7. Every man, every woman, every child. We remember them all, and for each name on this list we will take payment in blood. She paused, letting her words sink in. To the Empire, this is only the beginning. To all other species in the galaxy, stay out of our way. This war is between us and the... Any ship that helps them will share their fate. Any ship that attacks our colonies will be erased from existence. We did not want this war, but now that it is here, we will end it on our terms. She ended the recording. Send it everywhere, she ordered. Every channel, every frequency, every corner of the galaxy. The message went out, and the galaxy watched in horror. The peaceful humans had just wiped out an entire military base in 11 minutes, and they were promising more. The Emperor received the news in his throne room. For the first time in his long life, he felt afraid, not of death, but of something worse, the realization that he had made a terrible mistake. How is this possible? He demanded. Where did these weapons come from? Why did we not know about them? His advisors had no answers. They stood in silence, their faces pale with fear. Only General spoke. I warned you, my lord. I warned you that the humans were not what they appeared to be. Their history is written in blood. They have spent thousands of years learning how to kill. They simply chose not to use that knowledge, until now. Wanted to argue, but he could not. The evidence was clear. The humans had been hiding their true power for 300 years, and now that power was turned against him. What do we do? He asked, his voice smaller than before. Shook his head. I do not know if there is anything we can do. We have awakened something terrible, something that was better left sleeping. Across the galaxy, other empires watched the footage of the attack. They saw how easily the humans had destroyed a base. They calculated how long it would take for those same humans to reach their own worlds. The numbers were not good. Ambassadors sent urgent messages to Earth, promising friendship and support. Species that had ignored humanity for centuries suddenly wanted to be allies. They had seen what happened to those who opposed the humans, and they wanted no part of it. Admiral received these messages with a tired heart. He did not want friends who only came because they were afraid. He wanted the peace that had been stolen from him. But peace was no longer possible. The war had begun, and it would not end until one side was broken. Commander arrived at what was left of Outpost 7 2 days after the attack. Her ship, the Silent Wind, moved slowly through the debris field. Pieces of metal and plastic floated everywhere. Bodies, frozen by the cold of space, drifted among the wreckage. Felt nothing as she looked at them. These were the soldiers of the Empire that had killed her family. They had chosen their side. They had paid the price. Captain did good work, she said to her first officer. He nodded slowly. The other species are terrified, Commander. They have never seen anything like this. Good, fear is useful. It will keep them from making stupid decisions. She turned away from the viewport. Set course for the second target. They think this was bad. They have not seen anything yet. Back on Earth, Fleet General Minu watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. The first strike had been successful beyond their hopes. They were in chaos. Other species were scrambling to distance themselves from the Empire. But Minu took no joy in this. He had opened the vaults. He had released the weapons. And now, looking at the destruction they had caused, he wondered if they could ever be sealed again. What have we become? He asked the empty room. There was no answer, only silence and the weight of 40,000 names demanding justice. The war was just beginning, and before it ended, the galaxy would learn just how far humans were willing to go. 3 months had passed since the war began. In that time, humanity had destroyed 47 military bases. They had captured 3 star systems. They had killed over 200,000 soldiers. and they had not lost a single battle. Emperor stood in his war room, surrounded by holographic maps showing his crumbling empire. Red marks covered the display, each one representing a defeat. Blue marks showed human positions, spreading across his territory like a disease. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "How are we losing to traders and farmers?" No one answered him. His generals had stopped trying to explain weeks ago. The truth was simple. They had underestimated humanity. They had mistaken peace for weakness, and now they were paying for that mistake with their empire. General entered the room, his face grave. "My lord, I have news. The humans have agreed to send an ambassador. They are willing to discuss terms." Looked up with hope in his eyes. "Terms? They want to negotiate." "Yes, their ambassador will arrive tomorrow. His name is—" For the first time in months, smiled. Perhaps there was still a way out of this. Perhaps the humans would be reasonable. After all, they had been peaceful for 300 years. Surely they did not want to continue this war. He did not understand. He still did not understand. Ambassador arrived on a small ship with no weapons. He was a middle-aged man with a calm face and quiet eyes. He wore simple clothes, nothing fancy or impressive. He looked like a teacher or a clerk, not a representative of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Emperor met him in the throne room, surrounded by guards and advisors. He wanted to show strength, to remind the human that the empire was still powerful. Walked in alone. He did not seem impressed by the guards or the golden walls or the huge throne where sat. He simply walked to the center of the room and stopped. "Emperor," he said, bowing slightly, "thank you for receiving me." Nodded, trying to look confident. "Ambassador, I am glad the humans have decided to talk. This war has been unfortunate, but I believe we can find a solution that benefits both our peoples." Said nothing, he simply waited. Continued, uncomfortable with the silence. "Perhaps we could discuss a ceasefire. Your people could keep the territories you have taken. We would pay compensation for the incident at 7, and we could return to the way things were before." Tilted his head slightly. "The way things were before." "Yes, peace, trade, cooperation. Surely that is what your people want." Was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was like ice. "For 300 years we offered you peace. We traded with you fairly. We healed your sick. We taught your children. We asked for nothing but friendship. And how did you answer us?" He took a step forward. "You laughed at us. You called us weak. You treated our kindness as stupidity. You took advantage of our peaceful nature. And when we did nothing to stop you, you grew bold. You decided to teach us a lesson." Another step. 40,000 people, farmers, teachers, children, they had done nothing wrong. They were not soldiers. They were not threats. They were simply humans living their lives hurting no one, and you killed them all. His eyes burned with cold fire. "You killed them to send a message, to show us our place, to prove that you were the masters and we were nothing." He stopped directly in front of the throne. "I am here to send a different message, Emperor. We do not want your territories. We do not want your money. We do not want to rule your empire." Leaned forward. "Then what do you want?" Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We want you to understand. We want every species in this galaxy to understand. Human patience is not weakness. Human kindness is not stupidity. We chose peace because we knew what would happen if we chose war. We buried our weapons because we were afraid of what we might become if we used them." He turned and looked at the guards, the advisors, everyone in the room. "Your ancestors called us the sleeping terror. Your ancient texts warned never to wake us, but you forgot those warnings. You thought they were myths, stories to frighten children." He looked back at. "They were not myths, they were history, and now you are living it." Gripped the arms of his throne. "What are you saying? You will not negotiate." "Oh, we will negotiate, but not the way you hoped. Here are our terms. The Empire will surrender unconditionally. You will give up your military. You will disband your government. Your species will be watched for the next 100 years to ensure you never threaten anyone again." "That is madness," shouted. "You cannot expect us to accept." "We do not expect you to accept," interrupted calmly. "We expect you to refuse. And when you refuse, our fleet will continue its advance. We will take your systems one by one. We will destroy your ships. We will burn your bases. And when we reach your—" He paused. "We will do to you what you did to seven. Every city, every building, every home. We will turn your world to ash, and we will broadcast the footage to every corner of the galaxy, so that everyone knows what happens to those who murder human children." The throne room was silent, could not speak. He could not breathe. He saw his death in the human's eyes, and he knew that was not bluffing. "You are monsters," he finally whispered. Shook his head. "No, we are humans, and you made us remember what that means." He turned and began walking toward the door. "You have 1 week to give us your answer. Choose wisely, Emperor, because the next time we meet there will be no more words, only fire." He left without looking back. Sat on his throne, shaking. Around him, his advisors began to argue. Some said they should fight. Others said they should surrender. A few said they should flee and hide somewhere the humans would never find them. General said nothing. He simply looked at the door through which had left, and he thought about how easily the galaxy's balance of power had shifted. For 1,000 years, they had ruled through fear. They had conquered and destroyed and taken whatever they wanted. They had believed they were the strongest species in existence. They had been wrong. The humans were stronger, not because they had bigger ships or better weapons, though they had both. They were stronger because they had spent 300 years pretending to be weak, building their power in secret, waiting for the day when someone would force them to show their true face. That day had come, and the Empire was about to fall. Closed his eyes and made a decision. He would not die for his pride. He would not sacrifice his soldiers for a lost cause. He would surrender, and he would hope that the humans showed mercy. Because if they did not, there would be nothing left of his people but memories and ash. The Empire fell in 6 months, not with one great battle, but with 1,000 small surrenders. Generals saw their bases destroyed and gave up. Governors watched human ships approach their planets and open their gates. Soldiers threw down their weapons and begged for mercy. Emperor refused to surrender until the very end. He hid in his palace, surrounded by his last loyal guards, waiting for the humans to come. He believed they would kill him quickly, the way he had killed so many others. He was wrong. Admiral came for him personally. He walked into the palace with only Commander at his side. The guards let them pass. There was no point in fighting anymore. Everyone knew the war was over. They found sitting on his throne, his 4 hands gripping the golden arms, his blue face pale with fear. "Have you come to execute me?" asked. Shook his head slowly. "No, death would be too easy for you, too quick. You would become a symbol for your people, a leader who died bravely facing his enemies." He stepped closer. "We have something else planned for you. You will live. You will watch as we rebuild what you destroyed. You will see the children grow up on the new colony we build where 7 once stood. You will witness every moment of peace that you tried to prevent." His eyes widened. "You cannot." "We can," interrupted, "and we will. You wanted to teach humanity a lesson. Instead, humanity will teach you. Every day for the rest of your life, you will remember what your arrogance cost your people. That is your punishment." The guards took away. He would spend his remaining years in a small room, watching broadcasts of the galaxy moving on without him. It was a fate worse than death for a creature who had once ruled 12-star systems. 2 weeks later, Admiral stood before the Galactic Council. Representatives from every major species were present, hundreds of beings of different shapes and colors, all watching the human with fear and respect. looked older than he had 6 months ago. The war had taken something from him, something he would never get back, but his voice was strong as he spoke. "We did not want this war," he began. "For 300 years humanity chose peace. We traded, we taught, we healed. We believed that kindness could change the galaxy, that if we were good enough for long enough, others would follow our example." He paused, looking at the assembled representatives. "We were naive. They saw our kindness as weakness. They attacked our colony, killed our people, and expected us to do nothing. They believed we had forgotten how to fight." His eyes hardened. "We had not forgotten. We had simply hoped we would never have to remember. But when 40,000 of our people died, we understood that hope is not enough. Peace requires strength. Kindness requires the ability to defend itself." He held up his hand, and a hologram appeared showing the devastation of the Empire. "This is what happens when humanity stops pretending. This is what happens when we use the weapons we built and buried and swore never to touch again. In 6 months, we destroyed an empire that had stood for 1,000 years. We did it with less than a tenth of our full power." Gasps filled the room. A tenth. The humans had held back that much. "We are not showing you this to threaten you," continued. "We are showing you this so that you understand something important. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want to conquer anyone. We want to go back to being traders and teachers and healers. We want peace." He lowered his hand. "But we will not be victims again. If any species attacks our colonies, destroys our ships, or harms our people, we will respond. Not with diplomacy, not with negotiations. We will respond with everything we have. And as you have seen, everything we have is more than enough." The council chamber was silent. "We are proposing a new agreement," said. "A simple one. All species will respect each other's territory. All species will settle disputes through this council. And no species will ever again attack civilians as a message or a lesson." He looked at each representative in turn. "If these rules are broken, humanity will act. We will protect the weak. We will punish the aggressors. We will do what we should have done 300 years ago when we first came to the stars." Captain, who had been standing quietly behind, stepped forward. "Some of you are wondering if you can oppose us, if you could form an alliance and destroy humanity before we become too powerful." She smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "Please try. We have been watching. We have been preparing. For every weapon you have seen, we have 100 you have not. For every ship you know about, we have 1,000 hidden in places you will never find. We have had 300 years to plan for this moment. Do you really think we only planned for the—" The representatives shifted nervously in their seats. "We do not want war," continued. "We want friends. We want trade partners. We want to share knowledge and culture and ideas, but we will never again pretend to be helpless. We will never again let our kindness be mistaken for weakness." Admiral raised his hand one final time. "There will be a vote. Accept our proposal and we return to peace. Reject it and you will face the consequences. The choice is yours. Choose wisely." The vote was unanimous. Every species accepted the human proposal. There was no other option. 3 months later, construction began anew. It would be a memorial to those who died and a promise to those who lived. Human families would settle there again. Children would play in parks named after the dead. Life would continue as it always did. Commander visited the construction site on a quiet afternoon. She walked through the empty streets that would soon be filled with people, past the foundations of buildings that would soon hold families. She stopped at a small garden in the center of the colony. A stone marker stood there with 40,000 names carved into its surface. Her parents' names, her brother's name, everyone she had lost. "We did it," she whispered. "We made them pay. The galaxy will never forget what happened here, and it will never happen again." Tears rolled down her cheeks. She had not cried since the day she heard about the attack. She had been too angry, too focused on revenge. But now, standing in this place where her family had died, she finally let herself grieve. Admiral found her there an hour later. He stood beside her in silence, looking at the names on the stone. "What do we do now?" asked. "The war is over, they are broken, what comes next?" Thought for a long moment before answering. "We go back to being human. We trade and teach and heal. We raise our children and build our colonies. We live in peace as we always wanted to. And if someone threatens that peace," looked at her with tired, knowing eyes, "then we remind them why they should not. We are humanity. We have walked through fire and come out stronger. We have seen the worst of ourselves and survived. We are builders and dreamers and healers." He placed his hand on the stone marker. "But we are also warriors. We carry that truth inside us, even when we choose not to show it. And now the galaxy knows. They looked at our patience and called it weakness. They looked at our kindness and called it foolishness. They thought they could hurt us without consequences." He turned to face the rising sun. "They were wrong, and they will never make that mistake again." Wiped her tears and stood straight. The war was over. The dead were honored. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities. Humanity had finally shown the galaxy what it was capable of. Now it was time to show them something else, what humanity could build when it was finally left in peace. And that, perhaps, would be the greatest lesson of all.